Well, I'm standing here in Warren in front of the sign for the Roberts Clark Funeral Chapel. That is one of Lane Family Funeral Home's facilities, and it's located here in Warren, Ohio. And there's a pretty interesting history of this funeral home. It actually goes back to Robert H. Roberts, who was the World War II mayor of Warren. His son started a funeral home business in 1948, and that was in downtown Warren. In 1956, Robert H. Roberts Jr. built this funeral home. And this funeral home at that time was the most modern funeral home and the only purpose-built funeral home in Trumbull County. Up until that time, most funeral homes were converted homes. They were not made specifically for the purpose of serving families. And what Robert H. Roberts did was actually hire an architectural firm here in Warren to design this funeral home to be able to serve families in a much more easily manageable way, I guess is what we'd call it, because it was set up where it had rooms that could be divided by what they called modern fold doors. They were basically accordion type doors that would go in and out and seal off one room from the next, so you could make a room large, small, or divide it up into 4 or 5 different rooms here. And it was later added on to, but Mr. Roberts ran this business until 1989, and at his passing, the funeral home was purchased by Rick Clark and Denny Johnson, Bob Laird, and Barry Lamer. And it was their funeral home then up until the time when the Lane Funeral Home organization purchased that funeral home off of them. And during their ownership of the Roberts Clark Funeral Home, they also expanded and purchased the funeral home in Cortland, Schaefer Winans Funeral Home, and the McDermott Funeral Home in Niles. And so when our company, when Lane Family Funeral Homes purchased the Roberts Clark Group, we got this funeral home in Warren, we got the funeral home in Cortland, the old Schaefer Winans Funeral Home, and Jack McDermott's funeral home in Niles. What I'd like to do now, though, is take you into the funeral home and let you take a look at it and see how it is nowadays. And we have updated some things, we made some changes both inside and out, and I'd just like you to see what it looks like now and see how we've made some changes, and we'll explain those to you when we get inside. Note that we do have the Robert H. Roberts Memorial Home on the building still, and we just felt that was appropriate as this is sort of a heritage home, and there's, with the history that Mr. Roberts had in this community and his father, we felt it fitting that we keep that on the building. Now, I came in the old front door. Actually, this is the main door that we use to have families enter the funeral home now. This is where they're met by our staff when they come in for calling hours or a funeral. And as we walk through, I'm going to take you to the 2 main chapel areas or calling hours areas or family areas. There's one on each side, and you heard me mention out front about modern fold doors. That's what these are. They're like an accordion door, and it will allow the rooms to be divided up. I will say my dad had these all over the place, and a lot of them are gone nowadays, but we still have them some places because they made sense. They were a really functional thing and a good idea. Then across the hall we have another area basically of similar size. So we can have 2 families here at the same time and give them plenty of room and plenty of individual privacy. And you'll note that the decorating done on this side is a little bit more modern, the other side's a little more traditional. And this has all been updated just in the last couple years. Where we're going to go now is we're going to go to the actual chapel that we put into this building. Now this was just an additional room. It was another room like the other two we just looked at, and it was utilized the same way, but we were able to basically repurpose it to a formal chapel. We were able to pick up the pews here from a church that no longer needed them and was getting rid of these, and we took them and refinished them, and we're able to actually make this, like I said, a purpose built part of the building for funeral services. And we think that it adds a nice touch to this building. It was something that wasn't here before, and this is something that we've done since the Lane Family Funeral Homes has been here. And we also have a coffee area here, and we have arrangement office here. Would be now to be to my right. We have an arrangement office there where we meet families. And the office area is near the entrance. We'll walk over there again. We can say hi to Carol here if she wants to say hi. She can at least say hello.
Hi.
She's been here long enough to know all the ins and outs of this place, and if it wasn't for her sitting there, sometimes we get a little bit concerned, wouldn't we, Carol?
That's nice of you to say.
Yeah. We have to have somebody in these buildings that knows everything that's going on, because we bounce around all over the place, don't we? So we know we go to Carol and we get answers and we get directions, so thank you.
Hold it down the fort.
That's right, that's right. Thanks, Carol. When Lane Family Funeral Homes purchased the Roberts Clark Group, it was really important to us to have some familiar faces here. Both of our companies were very concerned and always continue to be concerned with our families and the level of service that we were going to provide them. And we felt that we needed some familiar faces. Transitioning is always difficult. And we were lucky enough to have Rick Clark and Barry Lamer and Bob Laird stay on with us and help us, become, fully engaged in the community and comfortable in these surroundings. And so, I always like to thank them and let them know how much I appreciate the fact that they did stay on board with us and continued to serve families for many years. Rick is somewhat semi-retired. Bob Laird has pretty much retired, but Barry Lamer is still here, and we're just glad to have him still running full steam here. Again, he offers a familiar face to families. And again, wonderful group of people, and glad to have them as part of our organization, that's for sure. As far as downstairs goes, I'm not going to take you downstairs, but downstairs we have casket selection room, additional restrooms, and our preparation room and everything is downstairs here. But we don't really need to go down there. But I just want to give you a view of this and see what it looks like now. And we have changed the outside. It's all one solid color now, and sort of keeping with that. I would call it sort of, people that know architecture have told me it's sort of like a Frank Lloyd Wright design, which I don't know a lot about those things, but they've told me that, and I've looked at some of his stuff, and I can see where they get that. So anyway, we're really proud of this facility and the people that are here, and we just thought we would share a little tour.